When you were in Australia back in January, we actually got to chat to some of your fans outside of the venue when they were lining up. A lot of them had lined up,
Oh.
camped overnight, or were waiting for ages, or, they were making friends and they were making friendship bracelets. They'd formed a really beautiful community. What does that mean to you to have a fan base so dedicated?
It's so special, and they represent so much to me. I feel like especially coming off the back of the pandemic, which I know is maybe, like, the most over talked about, like, thing of all time, but I just I have to mention it just because we all went
We
from this
lived
period
it.
of extreme isolation to, my first experience kinda, like, leaving the house after quarantine was for touring purposes, and so it was all of a sudden just kind of this 180 where I got to experience the community that my audience has built so generously and with so much vulnerability and so much passion and just this kind of like openness that I feel like I respond very much to, and the relationships that I've watched them develop with each other is so hopeful and has without a doubt influenced, the kind of music that is on this next album, just kind of this their generosity of spirit and, their volume at shows. I was like, "Well, if
Yeah.
they feel like screaming to this slow shit, like, I need to give them something else to, like," you know what I mean?
Well, let's
Something a bit more worthy of their lung capacity.
Oh, I think the crowds, I mean, being at the shows, they were eating it up. I mean, every single song, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I'm sure they'll be the same about this new stuff. Let's talk about it. Risk is the new one, a new taste of this upcoming album. In the past, you've called Risk your favorite unreleased song. What is it that you love most about this song?
So the whole album, pretty much, the majority of it was written with my best friend, and my roommate, Audrey. We, like, just grew up together and have always sung together, and she's a writer in her own regard, but we'd never written music together ever, and we had moved in right before or kind of in the middle of touring, so it was, like, every time I'd come back home, we would try to, like, just manically, like, fill each other in, every detail, and it very quickly just ended up being in this, like we were sitting on the couch and, like, started we always have instruments around, and it translated that way. It was like this conversation turned into this song, and we were just in tears laughing the entire time because, like, a lot of the album came from seeds of experiences and feelings and relationships in my life, in, my friends' lives, but then we pushed them to these extremes, and that is what we were kind of doing with Risk, and it was just fun to play this character kind of, and it was so much fun to write it with someone who, like, knows me as well as she does, because as much, character building as we're doing in the songs, it's also like you can't lie about the core of a feeling when you've just, like, sat on the couch for 5 hours and been like, "I'm obsessed with him," or like, "I'm in love with her, I think," or like all this shit, you're kind of like, "Whoa." So it was the best time, and I think I was just so excited to put out this song first because it was, like, the first one we wrote for the album. It felt like the right move.
And let's give Audrey her flowers. I mean, to have a best friend
I
who's
seriously
also a collaborator working on the music video with you, I saw too. What do you think she uniquely brought to this song, to Risk?
I mean, I wish you knew her because, like, you would know immediately what her contributions are. There's, like, a really, kind of pure energy and, perspective that she's got in general. It's why I'm, lucky enough to call her my best friend. I feel like is the thing that I valued the most since we were kids is just we're just really straight with each other and, like, kinda, uh, everything is based in kind of being able to laugh at something, even if it's the hard stuff, just finding an angle where there's, like, more joy infused, and she had never directed any this is her, like, directorial debut, and she kind of came to me and was like, "I wrote this treatment," and I was like, "Well, fuck yeah, let's rock." Excuse me. I was like, "Let's rock with it, like, let's go," and I'm so excited for her to, be a part of the first thing that she's putting out into the world like this, I'm sure she'll be on your show, soon enough for her own stuff, but she's just excellent, and everyone should love her as much as I'm lucky enough to.
Yeah, Risk is also about, having a crush and realizing you're in a lot deeper than you thought you were. What type of person do you become when you've got a crush?
I'm a monster. I'm a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, you'll listen to the whole album and you'll know who I've become. It's like actually foul. I think it depends on the person, doesn't it? It's always like different. I think historically I get really excited, and I think like I project a lot ahead of actually knowing a person well enough to like be right about my assumptions, and like that's kind of what the whole theme of Risk and a lot of the kind of like arc of the album is, all these different phases of getting to know a person, and especially like when you're left to your own devices and you kind of have some idea of a person. Like my instinct is to kind of do the like actual like go down the drain with it entirely, because there's something, I don't know, this has kind of been the longest period of time in my life right now where I've not been in a relationship, so I actually feel like I can speak to it with some like baseline, like neutral baseline of like, oh, actually I do change quite a lot, like I do get this like chemical reaction of an experience when I'm starting to like fall in love with someone or whatever. But I again, like, music has always been my outlet, and the difference I suppose with this album is that in the past it's been only me alone writing in complete isolation, as like quietly as possible, trying to like not even be heard outside of the wall of my bedroom, and that was how I was recording things. And then this album was deeply influenced by the amount of touring I've been lucky enough to do, the way that I want to feel on stage when I'm doing it, for as long as I'm lucky enough to, the way that I want my audience to feel like they actually have something to like really like scream to, that's not like an acoustic, you know what I mean? Like, and also living with my like dearest friend and like stepping outside my comfort zone a bit in terms of like talking through things in real time versus giving years, before processing something. I don't know. All the shit that you learn when you're like 24. I feel very much like just riding the wave of every day.
The Secret of Us is the album that is dropping in June, almost a year to the day since your last record, Good Riddance. Did you always want to work on new music so quickly after you dropped Good Riddance, or did it just sort of happen that way naturally?
It happened that way, and I also just am always writing,
Yeah.
so this one was lucky where it was like I felt like I was vomiting out these songs kind of, and they felt like, even because again, the writing is just like constant when I'm lucky. Like obviously there's periods where it goes dry, but like right now, post finishing The Secret of Us, even it's like I've been making the next thing or like developing it already, and it was pretty easy to identify when the songs that I started writing for future stuff didn't belong in this project anymore. So that was nice. Like I feel like everything with The Secret of Us has been like this very bizarre but like kind of magical flow. Just everything's kind of fallen into the next thing a bit, and I've been trusting that sort of, and also like it's helped me take myself less seriously because it's not that everything's gone according to any plan. It's just things are
Mm.
coming up and I'm trying to give in or whatever.
Yeah, even hearing you talk about how Risk came about, you and Audrey on the couch and you sort of just started writing this song and it came to fruition. Like, when was
Yeah.
that moment over the past 12 months, sorry, was this sort of when Good Riddance had just been released into the world?
No, this literally was not even, this was maybe just 6 months. This is the quickest
Wow.
turnaround by miles. I
Wow.
rewrote Risk late August. So whatever, whatever the math is on that. It's not long ago. Yeah. Fresh enough that I'm
Wow.
like, I'm definitely in a different place emotionally, which thank God, but like I'm like, oh, that was me, that's still, I'm like, I'm her,
That's the same, Gracie.
She's crazy.
The fans have been referring to this as, quote, the happier album. You don't have to reveal just yet whether, that may be the case or not. But what would you say is the reaction you're hoping to get from the Gracie Abrams fans upon hearing this album?
It's funny because I haven't like it's with a release, it's kind of like you have the temptation to look and things and see what people are saying, and but actually I've been like pretty just disciplined with myself in terms of not doing that because it affects my
Mm.
life as a whole, and I'm like, no, but again, the kind of joy that, we got to experience making it is what I hope inevitably cuts through and finds my audience. And I want them to feel that kind of joy that I got to experience while kind of like working through all these themes and things. And it's a very wistful album, and it's also totally bitter, like right around the corner. You know what I mean? So it's like there's pockets. There's kind of like, I feel like something for everyone a little bit, even just in terms of what the experience is, because it's like it's talking about different relationships. It's like really where love takes you in your 20s, and like the true roller coaster of what that looks like. Like it's not always pretty at all. It's like actually often deeply unrequited, and that's a really uncomfortable feeling to sit with. And everyone knows what that is. You know what I mean? Like it's brutal, and it's also like epic because it propels you. I feel like it can propel you into this like next kind of level state of consciousness about like your place in the world, or like how you I don't know. We could talk about this forever, but I hope that they find pieces of themselves in it, because we've been growing up together, and that's been like the greatest privilege of my life, is like somehow finding this like extended family. It feels like where like I can go to Australia and like seriously, it's beyond me, and I couldn't have known that till I got to tour there this past year, but it was like my favorite thing I've ever done. Like specifically being there, like the crowds. You guys get to experience it all the time, like you're a part of it, but like there's something about the energy that was so just tangible. And so, if that was based on, Good Riddance, which is like a black and white album for a reason, it was like these heavier, bleaker feelings. Like everything that I hope to lean into or with this album is just inherently more colorful. And I mean that on like a literal level, and also just like emotionally, I hope for it to feel lighter to people.
And we've also talked a lot about, in those situations and those crowds and those shows, about those moments where we're singing at the top of our lungs and we're screaming those lyrics. If there is one lyric, maybe from Risk or this upcoming album, that you can't wait to hear be scrumped or screamed by
I
a
want
heaving
scrumped.
crowd, what would that lyric be?
From Risk, I can tell you, I don't want to like talk about the other ones yet, but my favorite is there's this like gang vocal. We did so many stacks of it, but there's this line in Risk that's like, "Watch this be the wrong thing, classic." I'm like, it's like classic. I'm like, I'm ready for the classics to like slap me across the face.
Yes.
I want it all. They honestly, because it's like my shows, it's like they are as loud as I hear as much of them in my mic in my ears as I hear myself. So it's a duet the whole time. So
We've heard
whatever they'll give me.
We've heard the sorry screams. It's now time for the classic screams. Gracie
Yeah, bring on the
Abrams.
classics.
Risk is out now, and that album, The Secret of Us, being released in June. We cannot wait to hear it. We cannot wait to see you back in Australia, hopefully very soon.
Thank you.
For the meantime, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you. I'm so grateful, you guys. Thank you so much.